On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Revolver by the Beatles. I've never heard of them. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Medalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal. We like to talk about it. And every so often, twice a year, we set a month aside to talk about albums that are not metal albums, but that we enjoy nonetheless.
Right. And I figured, because this is my week to bring an album, you had probably never listened to a whole Beatles album all the way through.
You were correct. I had never done that. Although I think just by virtue of working at a classic rock radio station and being alive, I guess.
Right.
I think I have heard most of the songs on this album at some point in my life, at one point or another.
Yeah, most of the songs. There's probably two or three on here you haven't heard.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
But I had never sat down and actually listened to a Beatles album because it never felt particularly necessary. Although there was a pretty long stretch, a fairly long stretch of my life that wrapped up somewhat more recently, where it would have made. I really ought to have, familiarized myself with the Beatles for work purposes, but I just never did.
Never did, and now you're no longer going to be working at a classic rock station.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be working for the same company, but I won't be.
We're firing Kale.
Yeah, that's always a weird thing to explain. Yeah. Of like, no, the station, the radio station, is just a frequency, and it's It's this room. It's not the building. It's not the company. The radio station is just a frequency. And you can have multiple stations under the same umbrella in the same building.
Right.
We have
easily. 3 stations.
Yeah, we have. Although one is in a different town.
Right.
You wouldn't know her. She's from a different town. She goes to a different school.
She's Canadian.
She's Canadian. Just south of the border, but she's basically Canadian.
Basically. Well, she broadcasts into Canada.
Yes. What is your deal? She's being a little bit of a nuisance.
Yeah.
Meowing out in the hallway. She doesn't usually do that. My cat being
right.
She's being a problem. Mm-hmm. What's your deal? She's got nothing to say. Right. Nothing to say for herself. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I've been having some discomfort lately in the chat. I'm probably going to have to go see a doctor.
You're dying.
I mean, sure, we're all dying in that sort of Sylvia Plath kind of way, but
sure.
We're all making that slow or sometimes faster march toward the grave, but
sure. We're all running up that great big hill of hope. Is that how that song, the line? What's the line?
Are you talking about
Four Non-Blondes?
In What's Up?
In What's Up?
That great hill for a generation.
This is nothing.
I don't remember. No, this is
nothing.
Yeah, leave it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, maybe you should go to the doctor.
I probably should. I mean, I'm in my 50s now.
You got to watch out.
I got to watch out. And like today's Pie Day. We're recording this on March 14th. Mm-hmm. And so I had somebody stop by with a large chunk of sour cream raisin pie. I've kind of cut most of the sugar out of my diet.
Yeah. And
so when I ate that pie, or like half of it, afterwards, I felt like, I needed a shot of insulin. Yeah. I felt nauseous. It was delicious, but I was, because it was from Shots.
Oh, okay.
And they make a fine array of pies at Shots Crossroads.
Yes.
Well, you're not paying more for homemade.
On Highway 2.
But yeah, so I don't normally eat sweets, like sometimes a little bit, but my God, I think it increased my chest pains.
Perhaps.
I may need to drink a gallon of water.
A whole gallon of water.
Mm-hmm. Or PCP.
Yeah, or PCP. Yeah. You're going to be like one of those football players I always saw in college walking around campus with just a gallon of water. Just a gallon jug of water everywhere they went.
Got to stay hydrated.
I mean, to be frank, you know, I now have 2 massive water bottles that I just leave in places where I'm going to be, which is just here and at work. So I don't have to walk around with one all the time.
Right.
But for quite a long time.
You don't leave a water bottle at the Sex Palace?
No, I don't leave a water bottle at my Sex Palace. It's my Sex Palace.
Sure.
Just to be clear about that, it's mine.
The big neon sign out front.
I'm the owner of the Sex Palace. It says Kale's Sex Palace.
You can hear the sign humming from here.
Yep. Yeah. The neon and the massive Bellagio style fountain that I have outside.
Exactly. In March in North Dakota.
Well, I keep it heated.
Oh, it's a heated Bellagio style.
It's a heated Bellagio style fountain. Very expensive. Mm-hmm. It's very expensive. But yeah. You should go to the doctor.
I probably should, yeah. Tightness in my chest. And you know, and as I'm doing
butterflies in your tummy
all the time. Love in my also my chest. No, anyway, no, it's funny because I was noticing this a little bit ago as I'm eating the entire pepperoni pizza I bought.
Yeah. Okay.
So I thought, man, I should really do something about these chest pains.
The only things I had, I'm like out of food to make a meal with.
Are you?
So I means I need to go to the grocery store. Because what I did for dinner is I just had spaghetti with sauce and some mozzarella.
Sure.
And then I threw some my last 2 bits of frozen chicken into the air fryer. And that was all I had left. I still have spaghetti left. I am now out of sauce.
Yeah.
So
you know, if you squeeze the cat real hard,
I'm not going to do that.
She's full of sauce.
Yeah. Yes, blood sauce.
Blood sauce. Oh no. Who's you kitty?
I'm afraid of her. So
well, yeah.
No,
as you should be.
She's terrifying. It is hilarious to me how quickly she reaches for violence the moment anyone but me tries to touch her.
Right.
Like it's I don't know what it is about all of the Sunday crew. She does not tolerate anyone touching her. And when you guys are around, if I go to try and touch her, she's much less tolerant of me.
Really?
So yeah, she's just she's a 1-person cat. I feel like a lot of cats are that way though.
Right.
Where they kind of just have one person that they latch onto and then they sort of tolerate other people. If that.
Right.
My parents had a cat that was around for most of my life.
Till recently, right?
Not until super recently. Not that sentence didn't quite.
No, we knew what you were trying to say.
I wanted it to.
Right.
I can't remember when Patches died. I don't remember how old I was. She was born when I was 2, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how old she was when she died. But it's still at this point with me turning 28 next week. She has been around for the majority of my life, or she had been.
Right.
And she, at a certain point, I think particularly after my sisters both graduated and moved out.
Yeah.
That cat just got attached to me for some reason. She was old, fat. I mean, she was always fat.
Yeah.
But now she was old too. And she attached to me for some reason. She'd follow me around everywhere. And eventually what we would do is I'd be playing video games in my room. And I have that footrest right there. That very same footrest.
Sure. With the cords
there.
on it.
Yeah, with a whole bunch of cords on it.
Never has feet on it.
No, it never does. And it almost never did. because I would sit that next to me on the chair, or I'd sit, I'd be on the chair and I'd sit that next to me.
Yeah.
And she would hop up onto that and just sit. She'd just sit there while I'd be playing video games for hours and hours and hours. I'd get to a loading screen or I'd die or something like that, and I'd reach over and I'd pet her. And that was just how we rolled for a few years. It was a good deal, I think. But yeah, she just followed me everywhere. I don't know why. Trying to think.
But not now.
Not now, because she's dead.
Right.
Can you do an impression of her?
It would be weird if my impression of most dead people applied to the impression of
a cat.
If your cat is in a grave doing this,
they don't really cross their arms.
They don't really
generally, or lean their heads back that way.
Right.
Bodies are not quite constructed in that manner. I'm trying to think if I've done anything this week. I haven't. I haven't done really anything at all.
Oh, here's how I've been lately. For some reason, I'm so demotivated for just about absolutely anything. Mm-hmm. I actually did the laundry.
Okay.
And somebody else's shit was in the dryer. And instead of taking their stuff out of the dryer and putting it on the table that's designated for, hey, get your shit out of the dryer, I just took my wet laundry up in the basket and set it on my bedroom floor, and it stayed there for 4 days.
Oh, wow.
And then I picked it. I'm like, I should probably do something with this. I bet it was
mold.
It was still wet and it was stinky now. Like, I got to wash all this shit again.
God.
So I did.
I was confused the other day when I did laundry because when I went to go wash my clothes, there was something in the dryer, I believe.
Yeah.
And then when the time came for me to put my clothes in the dryer, the clothes that had been in the dryer were on top of the dryer, but had not been taken to the place of whoever they belonged to. Really? I didn't put them there. So I was like, why? Who did that and why? Why, if they're not your clothes and you're not using the dryer, why take them out and put them on top of it?
Well, maybe what had happened was that it had been that long that somebody had their stuff in the dryer and then somebody else came out and said, I need to use this dryer. Then they put their wet laundry in the dryer after having taken the other people's stuff out, and then the dryer went through the whole cycle and dried their clothes, and they came back and got their clothes and took it back to their took it back to their apartment. and put it away, and the person whose clothes were in there previously, that person still hasn't come out to get their goddamn shirts out of the dryer.
Maybe the clothes, there wasn't anything on top of the dryer when I put my clothes in the washing machine though. Oh. In the washer. There were the clothes that were in the dryer when I put my stuff in the wash.
Yes.
I am fairly certain would have to be the clothes that were on top of the dryer.
Okay.
When I went to dry them. And the wash cycle there only takes about a half hour. The dry cycle takes like 45 minutes. So it has to be more or less the same clothes, which it doesn't solve the mystery of why. It's I love these incredibly mundane daily mysteries of just like, why do people do things? What is it to be human?
What is it these humans are doing?
Could you explain to me?
Yeah.
What does it mean to be a human being? It is me, definitely not an alien.
I'm human.
It's me, human. I've just been playing a lot of Helldivers lately. Yeah. And that's kind of it. I haven't done anything. And, I do. I am somewhat bothered because my rate of consumption for audiobooks has hit the floor.
Really?
Because since my change of duties at work. Duties. The rate at which I go through audiobooks has just plummeted.
Right.
And
because you're not sitting in there for hours and hours anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sitting in the back for ages and ages and ages with nothing else to do.
And plus, when you are, since you know that most of the time it's just you and I in the building now, then that I have headphones on and I'm voice tracking.
Yeah.
So somebody's got to listen for the phone.
And
so you
that
don't
somebody's
have
me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that bothers me a little bit because I had a good thing going there for a while. I was like, all right, it's a new, every 2 weeks I was ready for a new audiobook basically. And I was really working through the back catalog of 40K novels. And
it was always a treat for me as well, because I'd be sitting in there and I'd be looking up news or doing something over here. And suddenly from up the other side of the wall, I'd hear,
yeah.
And it was you laughing at a funny part in the book.
Cackling.
I would hope.
A book or a podcast or what have you.
That just doesn't seem to happen much anymore.
It wouldn't. Life has gotten less funny. Send in the clowns. But the book I'm listening to right now is pretty funny. But anyway, if I start talking about Warhammer, I will never stop. So
I want you to describe the plots of all the books you've heard so far.
It's in space and people fight each other. The end.
Okay. Are there Marines?
There are. Sometimes, though, there are other guys, and they aren't Marines.
Mm-hmm. Are there space orcs?
There are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the end. That's all there is.
There ain't no more.
There ain't no more.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've done interesting. I'm trying to think if there's anything I've done that's interesting that I can talk about. Here. That's appropriate.
I suppose, yeah.
For this, no, that's That's it. My youngest kids came back from Seattle this past Sunday.
Good old Seattle.
From Seattle, yeah, and Max, the youngest, brought me the Reaper. It was this hot. Did I show you the picture of the hot sauce that I got? It's awesome. It's this bottle of hot sauce. It has a black cowl on it, and when you open the cowl, there's a skull on the cap.
Interesting.
It's pretty awesome. He brought me. He says, "I don't know if this is gonna be any good." And so I'll give it a taste when I get home. And I put some of the Reaper sauce in my mouth, and I'm like, I'm impressed about how much pain I'm in right now. It was very tasty, but mother of tits.
I mean, that's just Carolina Reaper, though, isn't it?
I mean, yeah.
It tastes good, but it's the hot. I mean, it's no longer the hottest.
No.
But at its closest, your mic is still probably about 1.5 feet away from your mouth.
What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about, Kale.
It's like you're slowly moving further and further away as you are rocking back and forth.
Yeah, I gotta go. I got a thing I gotta do.
Okay. You can pull it closer to you.
That's what she said.
That's what that whole apparatus is for.
What is this? A goom of foom?
It's a goom.
A goom.
All
right.
But yeah, I feel like I'm just in a lull of stuff.
Me too.
I'm close to finishing Rogue Trader finally, and then I'll move on to probably replaying Cyberpunk. Or there is a new game I'm looking at wanting to play, which is Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm interested in playing that. It seems like my sort of game, very heavily customizable, some very big swords, monsters to kill, and their whole thing with that game is that they let you climb on the monsters.
Really?
The thing that every D&D player in the history of ever has been like, I want to grab onto the dragon. And then the dungeon master, depending upon the edition, has to be like, I don't fucking... okay, you have do this, I guess.
Have you ever played Shadow of the Colossus?
I've not. I know that's the whole thing is climbing up gigantic creatures.
Yeah, you're climbing up monsters.
These in Dragon's Dogma, they're not the size of a skyscraper, generally speaking.
Right.
But it's much more in line with the Dungeons and Dragons idea of I want to jump on top of the dragon as it's flying by. And then as a dungeon master, having to on the fly come up with rules for how to model that feels fair. But I'm interested in potentially playing that. But I've been thinking about replaying Cyberpunk for such a long time and playing the DLC for that I feel like I kind of have to commit to doing that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it'll feel different because the game has changed fairly radically since I played through it the first time.
Right. I mean, because you were playing kind of a beta version, wasn't it?
I mean, it should have been, but no, it was the full release.
It was the full release?
It was the full release.
It was just buggy.
It was just a not finished game.
Wow.
But like maybe it'll feel a little different in a certain regard.
Right.
Now that the game has changed so much, but I think this playthrough would be, in theory, much quicker than my first one because I really committed to like doing all the things in the first playthrough, which includes a bunch of absolutely non-story side content and killing as many gangsters as humanly possible and doing all of the little optional encounters and all that have no plot to them whatsoever. That's just, there's a group of this gang here, go murder all of them. So if I don't do that, then number one, the story will go faster. And number two, my character won't be ludicrously overpowered by the time I finish the game. The final boss of the game has gotten a pretty major buff, as I understand, in the new version of the game as well.
Yeah.
But he was laughably easy.
Yeah.
When I played through it the first time on, and I think I had cranked it up to a relatively high difficulty, and it was still like, yeah, this is not a challenge whatsoever. And he's one of the most legendarily like tough bad guys in the Cyberpunk universe. Is Adam Smasher. And then going from having played 2077 to watching Cyberpunk Edgerunners on Netflix.
Yeah.
And the way he is presented in that show, it's like, man, I wish he was like that in the game because this is badass.
Is it a good show?
It's an amazing show.
Oh.
Cyberpunk Edgerunners is fantastic.
On Netflix?
On Netflix,
They've never recommended it to me.
I don't know. It's one of their, original anime.
Right.
It's fantastic. It's an absolutely great show. It's short too. It's only 6 episodes, I think. Really good stuff. I really like it.
Speaking of anime, Netflix, I've watched a couple episodes now of The Last Airbender.
And how are you finding that?
On Netflix.
You're being difficult tonight.
No, it's okay.
It's okay?
Yeah, it's okay. It's not bad. Not bad at all.
See, I feel like this is damning with faint praise, though. Like saying like it's okay.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that it's not amazing.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is it's not worth my time. Is how I'm, interpret that sort of thing.
Have you seen the original series, all the seasons?
Yeah.
So here's what you do. In order to experience the live action version, go back and watch the original anime all the way through, and then don't watch them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the original show was great. I mean, you really can't call it. It was American made.
Yeah, I was about to be like, I'm gonna push up my glasses there and be like, actually, it's not an anime.
No, it's not. It's just made in that style.
Yeah, I was very inspired by that style.
Yeah, it's nice.
But I keep on seeing on Instagram a clip of Aang fighting Boomy.
Yeah.
And the makeup for Boomy is like uncanny valley old man makeup. Like It doesn't look right at all. Like Boomy looks wrong in so many ways. Which I guess especially in that scene where they are facing off with each other. It always is a little weird because he's got the classic old man type face.
Yeah. And
then he's just fucking jacked as hell. So that was always maybe going to not translate super well into a live action setting, but it's like painfully obvious old man makeup versus an actual old man. Maybe I'm wrong about that and it just looks weird and it is an actual like old man. It's probably an actor who's like in their 50s or 60s.
No, it actually is Gary Oldman.
It's Gary. Usually his makeup is so much better because you can never tell it's Gary Oldman.
Right.
He always disappears into it. He's a chameleon.
He does. He is.
Like in that movie Tiptoes. The role of a lifetime. That movie's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Kate Beckinsale, Matthew McConaughey, Gary Oldman playing a little person when Peter Dinklage is also in the movie. Why?
I don't know.
It's so bizarre. And also, we're supposed to believe that regardless of Gary Oldman playing a little person, we're supposed to believe that Gary Oldman and Matthew McConaughey are brothers.
Right.
Which...
separated at birth.
No, not in this one. Yeah, it's not like Twins.
Right.
I don't actually know what the plot of Twins is.
Oh yeah, they were like made in a lab, and they made one perfect child, and all the genetic bullshit they had left over was Danny DeVito.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it'd be hilarious if the premise of the movie is that they think that was like, oh, Arnold got all the perfect genes and Danny DeVito got all the bad ones. And actually it was the other way around. And it turns out Danny DeVito is the perfect human.
You know,
have I stumbled on what's actually the plot of the movie?
I don't remember. The movie was not that memorable, so I don't.
Other than from the poster.
Yeah, from the right.
And the premise of, hey, look at this movie where Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger are twins. I accidentally said DeVino. Yeah,
you did.
DeVito. I put a soft T in. It was the T is silent.
Right. DeVito.
Danny DeVito.
I actually had a friend of mine once. So I was talking about, I have twin daughters. And I was talking about my twins' mom to a friend of mine, by the way, who has a master's degree.
Okay.
And she said to me, I didn't know you had a twin.
Oh, that will be, yeah. Okay. It's so bizarre it took me a moment to connect the dots of her bizarre logic.
Yeah.
Because then the question is, why would I say my twins mom
and not
instead
my
of
mom?
just my mom or our mom?
We're twins, but we have different mothers.
Famously, a thing that can happen. Although the reverse, I guess you're not technically twins. But you can, it has historically happened. It is a very rare biological event where you can have two babies in the same woman with different fathers.
Yes, that's true. That can, but yeah. Well,
but you're not, in that case, you are not technically twins.
My daughters tend to try to convince me that is the case with them.
Really?
Yeah.
Do they look particularly different or
from each other? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Asian one is a little bit taller.
God. What's the other one?
Cocker Spaniel.
Nice pivot.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh boy.
So yeah. Hey, you want to talk about the Beatles?
Yeah, let's talk about the Beatles. Because I can't think of anything else to talk about.
I've snapped out, by the way. Hey, we're talking about the Beatles tonight on the podcast, and I've got now two people going. Who
are those?
Tell me about that band.
Beatles.
Never.
I see. Yeah. I mean, not that we ever go super into detail about the career of the bands that we talk about,
right?
But this is one of those times where it's like I don't think there's anything that we need to say.
No, I think this is in history books, the career of this band.
Absolutely. Like if you don't know who the Beatles are, we're not your resource to get that information.
Right.
Just look that up. There's pages upon pages upon pages written about this band.
Yes. Yeah, an old friend of mine named Terry, who owns a bar in town now, many years ago, he said, "Come over to my house. We're having beers." I'm like, yeah. So we went over there, and there was this other girl there, and he said, "Okay, be very careful with this. This is a very expensive first printing of the biography from Time Life of the Beatles, and it's it's glossy and it's cost me a lot of money, and I almost immediately spilled beer on it.
Oh God! Oh no!
He was so mad.
I mean, that's just fate right there. Mm-hmm. That's just Murphy's Law,
right?
In action.
He should have known that was going to happen anyway, because he also asked me to MC his wedding, and then his mom insisted. She said, "You know what? Speaking in public is so hard. Here, have 5 beers." And then I think I had 5 more after that. Yeah. I think I tapped the shit out of that keg, and then it came time to the dinner. I'm gonna get on my bicycle. I'm gonna go fuck home.
Good luck. Bye. Bye.
And then Tara's like, "Where's the MC? Where's OJ at?" And his mom was like, "I think I got him drunk."
I did a boo-boo. So this is Revolver, which is their album from 1966.
August 5th.
This is their last album, sort of as they were transitioning into no longer being like touring musicians.
Right.
I believe there would be sporadic live performances. Mm-hmm.
Eventually before the rooftop performance.
Yeah, before the final end of the band.
Right.
But they stopped, touring and performing live regularly. Right. After this album came out. Mm-hmm. I guess and again, connected to we're not your resource for learning the history of this band is also I just don't really know it because. They're I'm passingly familiar with the Beatles.
See, here's the thing with you, and this is one thing I've noticed about you and other people kind of like you people, is that you will say things like, "I really don't know a whole lot about it," and your knowledge of it is probably 300 times more than the average person.
Sure,
but you have deemed yourself sort of ignorant of the topic. I guess because you don't know as much about it as you would say know about, I don't know, Warhammer.
Sure. I don't know. I don't like being wrong, I guess. And my way of not being wrong has developed into just don't pretend like you know what you're talking about, or don't ever be sure that you know what you talk about. Sure. Caveat everything with I might be wrong about this.
Right. I've noticed the biggest when you meet somebody who's very confident about all the stuff they know, they're usually the biggest dipshits you'll ever meet.
For sure.
Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. I doubt that.
People who know a lot think they know nothing.
Right.
Generally, but it's I guess maybe I am more familiar. I genuinely don't feel like I know a lot, but also that's because I work with you, and our boss is someone who is a Beatles super fan.
Right.
So for me, it's relative, I guess.
Right,
my knowledge of the Beatles. I'm almost certain you know way more about them than I do.
Likely, yeah.
Because you've also probably listened to multiple of their albums all the way through many times.
All of them, yeah.
Whereas for me, as we talked about at the beginning of this episode, this is my first time actually sitting down and listening to one of their albums all the way through. Mm-hmm. So that's why I don't feel qualified to speak on their history as a band.
I mean, they made albums for 8 years.
Yeah.
I mean...
Which is wild.
Yeah.
That's wild to me that their career was, in theory, that short. Incredibly dense.
Right.
An extremely dense career with a lot of music that was made. Mm-hmm. Some of which, came out recently for the first time.
Right.
But short. Mm-hmm. And it's wild to me comparing, there are certain other bands that we've talked about during our metal months. Where they have an outsized impact on a genre and a really big legacy with 1 or 2 albums.
Right.
But, and we're had such a short but impactful career. And then you think about the Beatles, where the density of their career approaches fucking neutron star levels.
Right.
As far as how important, how much music, and how short a period of time. It's nuts. And the sheer legacy and impact they've had for so many different kinds of music. Even going into like even going into metal, like people generally don't think of the Beatles as having had an impact on metal.
Of course they did.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
They impacted fucking everything.
Right.
Or punk even. Like I listened to Revolution, and then listen to the last part of that song, and then listen to some early punk song, and tell me there's not some similarities there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like there's so much. There's so much, which is probably a good thing that we chose. Revolver is kind of bite-sized.
It is bite-sized, and also there's arguments. There's millions of people right now arguing about what the favored Beatles album
what
is.
the best Beatles album is.
And a large chunk of them say it's this one.
That was the understanding that I developed looking into this album a little bit, is that for a lot of people, this seems to be the most important moment in their career from a songwriting perspective.
Right.
Like, this is the best music. This was them at the height of their powers. And that it was kind of a turning point in the band as they started making weirder and more technically proficient and kind of esoteric influences.
Right. Which were all great, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, everything that came after this was great.
Yeah, but they certainly got weirder and less accessible as time would go on.
Right. And then and here's how I kind of like to look at it. When somebody's been sick for a while, and then one day they wake up and they go, "Wow, I have never felt better. This is great. Wonderful." And then their corpse is found the next morning.
And that is
Abbey Road.
Abbey Road. There's just, what if I went back to making kind of normal music for a bit?
So they made that album, and that was the last album they made because Let It Be was the second to last, and then they released the Abbey Road first, and then Let It Be, which was a nightmare to make. Took a long time to mix down, and then they put that out last.
Okay.
But
sort of the last moment of lucidity before the end.
Yeah.
And it seems to, like, my understanding of it is sort of like, I mean, they were all kind, as musicians, sort of exploring and getting into stranger and weirder music. But my understanding is that a lot of the really weird shit was mostly Lennon.
Yeah. Yes.
And Paul McCartney. I mean, if you just listen to the music that the two of them would go on to do immediately after the Beatles, Lennon stays fucking weird.
Yeah.
And and
McCartney is weird, but in a different way.
Weird, but in a different and slightly more digestible fashion.
Yeah, you listen to Wings. There's a lot of strange Wings songs, but his are more whimsical, strange. Whereas
Lennon's are more drug trip strange.
Right, and for
good
McCartney
reason.
was stoned a lot too. But if you watch there's a documentary. It's a 4-part documentary on the internet. I think it's on Amazon. Is it? I don't remember where it is.
I don't know.
But you can watch it, and it's just they took footage of the Beatles recording.
Oh, is that the Peter Jackson one?
Yeah.
What is that? Get Back?
Yeah, Get Back.
Okay.
And you can watch that. You realize, because they talk about everything is Lennon McCartney. Everything's written by Lennon McCartney. Occasionally you'll get a Ringo. Occasionally you get a Harrison. But it's a Lennon. But
Taxman Harrison song.
Yeah. The opening track to this album.
Anyway.
But if you watch that, you'll see who's really in charge.
It's Paul.
It's Paul.
Yeah.
He's definitely the man.
Someone had to be the adult.
Yeah.
Someone had to be like, okay, but we need to make the music.
Yeah, we need to make the music. And there's a few scenes in there where they don't say it, but you can tell, like, after a couple of times, Yoko has come to the practices there. Suddenly Linda's coming to the practice as well. And everybody's going, oh, it's annoying to have your girlfriend at the practice. Oh, and John's like, oh,
I get it now.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
But so this I was, part of me was like, it's pointless to see, like, to look at scores Like part of me was like, what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
We're talking about the Beatles. What's the goddamn point of looking at
I'm sure you
scores?
did anyway.
I did. So there were 10 reviews on the Wikipedia page. The highest score we've ever I have ever aggregated, 99.
99.
It was all 100s and then 190. I don't remember who the 90 was from. But yeah, it's a 99% out of 100. So that is by far the highest score we have ever had
on an album on this program.
Yeah, on this program.
Yeah,
I like saying program that way.
Yeah,
it's fun.
As do I.
But yeah, definitely the highest score we've had here. Something I was talking to you about earlier today. Speaking of Taxman, which I mentioned earlier.
You had one little gripe here.
I have a little gripe. I found this album very enjoyable.
Of course.
But I have one little gripe, and it's this sort of thing where you have musicians and like progressive rock is kind of developing as a thing,
right.
And a big part of progressive music is the technology that was available at the time for recording processes, and what are some tricks that we can do to make this sound different. And one of those things was mapping certain instruments to specific audio channels,
right,
left and right. And it's one of those things that really bugs the shit out of me with certain music when an instrument is only on one channel for the entire song. I don't know why. It really bothers me when that happens. It makes me I think part of it is because, and I explained this to you earlier today, is because I always listen to music wearing headphones.
Right.
Whereas generally speaking, when this was made, that wasn't necessarily the intended experience of listening to this album or music in general. You'd be listening to it through a sound system, through speakers. Right. Was the intended experience, since the whatever uncomfortable feeling I get from that sort of separation of channels would be significantly lessened through speakers.
And I feel like one of the logic behind doing that as an experiment was that now it sounds more live, because if you're sitting in a chair, you can like this, the guitar player's over here, the bass player's over here, and
that's neat. It's a cool concept, but for whatever reason in execution, it's something about it bugs the shit out of me. Part of it is also there are significant portions of my life where, particularly if I'm listening to music at work, where I might have one earbud out.
Which I recommend listening to the Beatles with one earbud
in. Get a half of the song.
It'll be insanely confusing.
Oh God. Yeah. So it's like, I don't mind it so much where like there are plenty of songs where an instrument might start in one channel and then another instrument will be on another channel, and then the two will fade together. Right. I like that. That's cool. I can handle that. But when it's the whole song, it grates on me. Taxman is otherwise a good song, but that bit just I don't know. Regardless of artist, it bothers me when that happens. That's kind of my only gripe with this album. Everything else is good. It's kosher. It's good stuff. What's your favorite song?
Oh Christ! I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the format of this show.
I mean, what do I mean? I mean, Eleanor Rigby.
Sure.
I mean, is on this
a classic choice. Eleanor Rigby is on this. You heard it here first.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because it's such a great thing. Yeah. It's one of the top best songs ever written. Yeah. And did you like read or listen to the lyrics to the song? Have you ever done that?
I was listening. It's a fucking depressing song.
It's a fucking depressing song.
It's a depressing ass song.
And now here's a funny bit, is that I hadn't listened to this all the way through by the time I had reached, I guess my age 12 or 13 or something. And I went and I bought the Phil Collins album. Was it Face Value that Tomorrow Never Knows is on?
I don't know.
He does a cover of Tomorrow Never Knows.
Is that the one we listened to?
I think it might be
Phil Collins album?
Yeah.
That sounds right. I think there was. Yeah, I think you're right. There was a Beatles cover on there.
Right,
I remember that.
And it's tomorrow night. And so I was like, what is this weird Phil Collins song?
and then you didn't realize.
And then like of course my mom has all the Beatles albums, and we listen to that. And oh shit, this is a Beatles song. That's awesome.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
So you're, if gun to your head, not saying that there's definitely not. Are you saying Eleanor Rigby?
Probably Eleanor Rigby.
Okay. I'm going with one that I feel like is like Eleanor Rigby is great, and it would definitely be my second song. But I'm going with one that I think is probably an unconventional choice.
Okay.
Potentially because I don't think I had ever heard this song before.
Okay.
And it's a song that I never hear anyone talk about. Like, if people are talking about Beatles songs that they like or that they know, people are talking about the best Beatles songs. It's never come up before.
Okay.
I found I really enjoy "I'm Only Sleeping."
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's a great song. I mean,
I really like that song. There's something about it that feels cozy, and just feels nice. It's there's like a little twinge of something that's not quite right at the resolve of like the main riff, if you could call it that. There's one note that's a little out of place, that feels a little less comfortable.
Right.
That does something kind of interesting, whereas the rest of the song and the lyrics feel kind of a little cozy, but also from the point of view of like, well, maybe you are a bit lazy. Maybe you are kind of a stoner, or you're, on fucking acid and you're just sitting there watching the world pass you by. But is that a bad thing?
Or maybe Paul is dead.
Or maybe Paul is dead. Yeah. But no, I found that I really liked that song.
Yeah. That's a great song.
It was just comfortable, enjoyable. And yeah,
I also like She Said.
Yeah. That was a good one too.
Yeah.
But Yellow Submarine is on this album.
Yes, it is. And that's just 2.5 minutes of fun.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Yellow Submarine is like the poster child for weird Beatles songs. Yeah. When anyone talks about like, when the Beatles got weird, they always talk about Yellow Submarine. Which I don't know if it feels that much more weird than some of the other stuff on this album. It's not that bizarre.
It doesn't feel weird so much as it feels Ringo.
Sure.
Yeah.
I still think that one of the most devastating things I've ever heard someone say.
Yeah.
Entirely in jest, but I can't remember. I think it was, I want to say it was Paul.
It was Paul.
Ringo's not even the best drummer in the Beatles, mate.
Yeah.
But what medal do you bestow upon Revolver like Mascanada to Chewbacca?
I think it's a gold.
I think I'm probably gonna have to, if I'm being entirely honest with myself, give it a very high silver. I very much enjoyed this album, but for me, I usually reserve gold to for albums that like I want to go back and listen to it again, and now I'm gonna listen to the rest of their stuff too. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I liked this. It was good.
Right. I give it a gold because I was raised on it.
Absolutely.
This is a thing that this is why I like music.
Yeah, and that's you're 100% correct to do that. So next week, my week, it's gonna be a day before my birthday. I decided it's been a while since we've listened to anything by this band. I think we've only done one of their albums before. The previous album we did of theirs was my favorite by them. But this is probably a close second. From 2003, it's called "The Earth Is Not a Cold Dead Place" by Explosions in the Sky.
Okay.
Speaking of albums that are just kind of comfy and cozy,
right?
Very much a classic post-rock album. So that'll be next week. Until then, why don't you out there go ahead and listen to us. Go ahead and follow our pages on Facebook or the website formerly known as Twitter. You can also subscribe to our feed on whatever device you're using to listen to us right now. Until you hear from us next time, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ. Congratulations!